Hi everyone, welcome back to my balcony in Taipei, and today I'm going to talk about being stealth as a trans person. Before we get into today's topic, I would just like to welcome you to the channel if you're new. We actually just hit 1,000 subscribers, and I'm so excited about that milestone, and it's really inspiring me to keep making content for you guys. So if you're new here, like I said, welcome. I talk about being trans and living in Taiwan, where I just moved 2 months ago, and you know, anything else that comes to mind. So yeah, stick around and subscribe. Okay, yeah, so today I would like to talk about being stealth. And this topic has been on my mind a little bit more recently because I've basically never been stealth in my entire transition journey so far, which has been over 2 years. Over 2 years. Until the past couple months. And I'm still not stealth. I mean, if I was stealth, it probably wouldn't be a good idea for me to have a YouTube channel about being trans, but I am going more stealth than I was before. Like, since I've come to Taiwan, I've been going a little bit more stealth, specifically in the workplace, and I'm just being a little bit more guarded with my trans identity here than I was in the US. So, and I'll just give like a little like rundown of like how stealth was I, like how open was I about my transness in the US, which was very open. Anybody that knew me as like friends, like around my like university district like area that I was living in my old city in the US, like anybody that knew me knew I was trans. Like, it was a big part of like my identity. I mean, it still is a big part of my identity, and I kind of like made it part of my personality because, you know, I was proud of it, passionate about it. I thought it was fun to talk about. It was still very new to me the first 2 years of transitioning when I was living in Columbus. And I was surrounded by queer people all the time, at the very least allies, because I mostly made friends with people in the music scene. Even people that weren't queer were typically like people that I had known before I transitioned, so everybody knew that I was trans, and I didn't mind. I was happy to talk about it. My last 2 years of school were basically all online, so I usually wouldn't bring up the fact that I'm trans unless there was like a reason to, if I was in more of a just like non-purely like social environment. So like in class, I wouldn't, for example, in like my coding or linguistics or psychology classes or whatever that I took, I wouldn't bring up the fact that I was trans. There was no reason to, and I did kind of like just hope that people wouldn't realize it, and I didn't want it to be a thing. Granted, all the classes were online, so like I wasn't really socializing with anybody in the class as much. So there wasn't much of an opportunity for it to be brought up, but basically I was kind of like avoiding it in a context like that, like class, where I'm not there to make friends, especially in online classes. I did take like a gender and sexuality class where in like my discussion posts online, I did like mention the fact that I was trans because it was relevant. Like, we literally like had discussions about like gender and stuff, so it was relevant for me to talk about it, and I didn't feel threatened. And then in like workplace situations, I had like the same job the whole time. I had the same job the whole time that I lived in Columbus after I had transitioned, which was like a really easy, like, I worked at a recording studio basically. I mean, if you've been watching my channel, you see that's where I used to work. Where I filmed those videos was where I used to work. I hope that this like city background noise isn't too crazy, and this microphone is like good enough to pick up me talking, and like mostly me talking and not all the other random shit going on. But anyway, I didn't really interact with like my coworkers or bosses or anything at that job ever. So there wasn't really like, again, it was like a similar thing where I like kind of didn't bring it up like to people, and like didn't really like let it be known unless there's a specific reason to. I was working there since before I started transitioning, so my boss knew that I was trans, but literally I wasn't really like I didn't really know any of my coworkers at all, let alone like they didn't know me, and let alone know that I was trans. The people that I actually interacted with day to day were the clients coming into the recording studio, and a lot of them were regulars, and again, it was a similar situation where I didn't bring it up unless there's a reason to. A couple people, like, every once in a while I had somebody ask me what my pronouns were, and I, like, there must have been, like, a couple people over the years that, like, I kind of hit it off with and became friends with, and, like, mentioned that I was trans to them at some point. But that's the thing, like, with my friends, it's not hidden at all. In fact, I love talking about it. But with, like, new people that I'm, like, just meeting, I don't really want to make it, like, a core part of, like, who I am to them. Is like, oh, that's Vera, she's a trans girl. So with, like, new people, especially in, like, non-explicitly queer social contexts, I don't divulge that information quite as readily. So when I was moving to Taiwan, I was thinking a lot about, like, obviously what's it gonna be like to be trans in Taiwan, which I just made a whole video about. But I was thinking, am I gonna have to go stealth? Am I gonna have to actually go stealth for the first time since I transitioned? And what I found, as you'll see in my as you would see in my last video, is that Taiwan actually is relatively accepting of trans people, like, on a social level, you know, medical gatekeeping and legal shit aside. Taiwan is, like, relatively okay with trans identity for a mostly developed country, and especially in East Asia. Like, I might have to figure out a different solution for filming, because these, like, sounds of cars and stuff going by are so annoying. Maybe I'll just bring the microphone closer to my mouth and then turn the sensitivity down next time. I don't want to mess with that in the middle of a video, but maybe next time. But I've heard that workplace discrimination can be a very real thing, and this is probably what I would have done in a workplace in the US even, but what I'm doing right now is essentially going stealth at work, and among my friends, I'm not stealth, but I'm continuing that thing of, like, not immediately divulging that I'm trans to new people until, like, I click with them well enough that I'm like, oh yeah, this person is chill, like, I can be myself and be open about it. But yeah, at work, there's only one person that knows that I'm trans. It's my, like, one friend that I made, my coworker, who's also, she's Canadian, and she's, like, 26 or 27, and she's also queer. She's, like, bi. And so we get along really well. And, like, most of the other people working there are, like, Taiwanese women in their 30s. And my boss, who's, like, a Malaysian guy, I don't know how old he is, 50s or 60s maybe, but yeah, so none of the other people know that I'm trans. And so my coworker that I'm friends with has told me, like, oh yeah, people have asked a couple questions, but I don't really know the details of that, and I don't know, like, what they talk about or how much they've pieced it together or how much they talk about it, but everybody treats me as a woman. Like, I really get treated as a woman there, which is, like, kind of funny, because it's, like, this, like, new social context where it's, like, these people that, like, for a variety of reasons, just have, like, slightly more, like, conventional, like, gender roles than the, like, queer, like, early 20-somethings that I always hang out with. You know, the gender roles are out the window. But, like, 30s, 40s, 50s, like, Taiwanese, like, cishet Taiwanese people, like, more conventional gender roles, definitely. It's funny, like, my academic director sometimes, like, jokes about, like, me, like, having a boyfriend that I probably miss back home, or oh, you women are always like this doing that. Not, like, really misogynistic, but, like, gender roles are, like, a thing that, like, actually exist within this demographic of people, as compared to my, like, gay fucking, like, music scene weirdos that I'm used to hanging out with, where gender roles just, like, don't matter. So it's not like a problem or anything. It's just funny. But the thing is, it's like, how well am I actually going stealth? I actually pulled a definition of stealth online that I thought that I should mention. I'm sure you guys like know what stealth is already, but I guess in case anybody doesn't know, I'll drop the definition. Maybe I should have done that at the beginning of the video. But anyway, so I found a definition from a website that I'll link in the description. It says, a stealth transgender person is one who has transitioned to live in a different gender and who is not informing those around them of their gender history. Yeah, so that's stealth. But I think that definition leaves out a crucial piece of the puzzle, which is like basically what being stealth is like founded upon. Like, it's impossible to be stealth without this, is you have to fucking pass. You have to pass to be stealth, because it doesn't matter if you've transitioned and you're living as the gender that you know yourself to be, and it doesn't matter if you're not telling people about your gender history. If the harsh reality is that if you don't pass and people can like just straight up see that you're trans, like, then how are you gonna be stealth? You know, people will know regardless. So that's like, I am very fortunate in that I do mostly pass, but not completely. Like, I mean, I'd love to pass completely, but all of us would, but I don't pass completely, I don't think. And so I mentioned this a little in my last video, but yeah, I have had kids like ask some questions about my gender before. Actually, yesterday was a pretty tough day because I had an evil little middle school boy just keep being really rude and like harassing me about like gender incongruities. He was like, teacher, why do you have this? Why do you have this? Like an Adam's apple. And I was so tired and stressed out already yesterday. Normally I would have been like, you are so rude asking about my body. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, some girls have bigger Adam's apples. Like, that is incredibly rude of you. Extra homework. It's what I should have done, honestly. But I was just so tired yesterday. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Please go away. So yeah, like, I'm stealth at work, meaning that I'm not telling people that I'm trans, but kids have asked a few questions sometimes, and apparently the teachers have asked questions to one another, but I still basically get treated as a woman all the time, so it is what it is. I also, like, I'm very fortunate in that I was able to update my legal name and gender marker completely before I came here, so like when I applied for my visa and work permit and stuff, I could just put my name and sex female on everything, and now like literally all of my identity documents in Taiwan use my like legal name and gender, which are like accurate. And if that wasn't the case, if you were coming here without that updated, then it would be obviously way harder to go stealth. You know, like if you send your employer your ID and it says like your dead name and sex M, or your like previous gender, it would be way harder to go stealth. But I think that like people here are just very like, oh, yep, it says sex female on your ID and you have long hair and a dress, like, must be a woman. So I can go like relatively stealth just by having like those simple things working in my favor. And then there's kind of like this internal thing about being stealth too, that's like, you know, it's always this struggle of like self-preservation versus like being proud and open about who I am. Because like I've already mentioned a bunch, I really like to talk about it, but I don't tell people right away. So it's always like this struggle of like, when am I going to like tell somebody, or if I'm going to tell somebody, and like I want to like, it's like an authentic like expression of who I am, and like part of myself is that like I am transgender, like I am trans and I am queer, and it's kind of like going stealth with being queer too, like all of that goes together kind of. Like I'm not really out as queer at work. I don't really hide it. Like I have like a live laugh lesbian tote bag that I bring to work, and my one coworker that I'm good friends with will like sometimes talk about like dates and girls and stuff in the office, but like not in groups with other teachers. But yeah, so like I am very proud to be trans and queer, and I like talking about that, but I don't always. I have to balance it out, you know? And sometimes it feels bad to like intentionally like censor myself to like make cis people, or I guess it's not even making cis people more comfortable, it's just making me more safe, which is like the real reason that people go stealth in the first place. Usually it's just for safety, but I really like talking about it, and I don't, if it were up to me, I wouldn't be stealth at all. But you know, trans awareness and acceptance isn't at the point where it's especially socially prudent or convenient or safe for everybody to know that I'm trans just whenever. Another thing that ties into another thing that ties into this is like, how open am I about it on social media, and like what does my internet presence like say about me? Which here I am on YouTube in a YouTube video talking about being trans and talking about all of this. As far as I know, nobody from my job like knows about this YouTube channel, and it's not like this huge thing. Like if they somehow found out, then everything would be ruined, and I don't know, like I obviously don't care enough to like not make these YouTube videos, like for fear that somebody would find out that I'm trans if I'm like trying to like not let them find out that I'm trans right away. And I like on my Instagram, I don't know, do I have trans stuff on my Instagram? I have one post where I kind of like, it was like my 1 year on hormones anniversary, and I kind of like vaguely reference it. I don't say that I'm like trans, but I say that I'm on hormones, stuff like that. So, and I also like deleted all of any pictures or anything of me before I transitioned, and like any traces of my dead name that I possibly could. It's like really hard to like find. God, am I setting myself up to be doxxed? Please don't dox me. But it's really hard to like find information about like my dead name or like anything about me before my transition. Like there's no pictures of that or anything, except on my like parents' old Facebook account, which is obviously not public. Like those photos aren't public. It's just like for friends and family and stuff. And I don't know, it's always this like, I guess this is getting into a different topic, but it's like always a risk to like be publicly trans online and like post so much personal information online. Like, hello, all of you strangers that know so much about my personal life and I've never met you. But yeah, like having this online presence means that I can't ever be like 100% stealth unless I like scrubbed it really hard, and even then it would still be tricky. But I don't really plan to ever go 100% stealth, and I'm like happy to be open about my trans identity, and if people find out when I don't intend them to, then I'll just deal with it, you know? Another little example, I think this will probably be like the last point that I hit, is like on dates, you know, like when I meet people on dating apps and stuff, I don't tell them that I'm trans right away, but I do put it in my like dating app bio. Like, I say queer, polyamorous, trans at the bottom, and like the first line is like a joke, like hot girl with the strap built in, what more do you want to know? So like it's open, like I'm open about the fact that I'm trans, but not everybody reads bios, and here in Taiwan, like locals won't always like read the English bio, even if they speak English more or less. Like, you know, I don't always read the Chinese bio, even though I could if I wanted to. So, like on dates, I don't usually tell people that I'm trans right away. It's like either they read my bio and they know, or they didn't read my bio and they're in for a surprise. And I'm kind of like intentionally strategic about that, because it's like, it's not my job to go out of my way to make cis people comfortable with the fact that they are talking to a trans person, like in a romantic or intimate context. Like, by the way, like, I'm transgender, are you okay with that? Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. Like, if you read my bio, it's there. If you didn't read my bio, then it's not my job to make you comfortable, and you will find out sooner or later. You will find out soon if we get far enough. Yeah, so, I don't know, basically I just, like, am kind of strategic with... Oh my god! Go away, motorcycles, go away. Basically, I'm, like, just kind of strategic with, like, how I play my cards about revealing, the fact that I'm trans to somebody and the fact that I'm queer and, like, how much I talk about it. In each new social situation, it's a little bit different. At this workplace, that I'm at now in Taiwan, then it's definitely the most stealth I've ever been. But, you know, I'm not stealth. Here I am on YouTube. All my friends know that I'm trans. It's like, I'm fortunate that I don't have to go stealth to, like, protect my safety. And I'm fortunate that Taiwan is relatively okay with trans stuff. So, yeah, I don't have to go stealth. And I'm happy about that. Okay, I think that does it for this video. Yeah, like I said, just reached 1,000 subs, so I'm super excited about that. I actually, I posted another little video about this, like a YouTube short, but I think that I'll do like a Q&A. I've already gotten like a handful of questions, probably enough to do a short video anyway, but if you want to leave some questions here for a Q&A video, you could do that too, or comment on the other one. I'll check, you know, all of my recent comments on all of my videos for questions, and, yeah, like, I just uploaded a video last week, and now I'm doing another one, like, basically a week later. Maybe weekly uploads if I can get my brain working correctly. Like, I'm super excited about, like, having some momentum on this channel again. And work is kind of draining sometimes, and I like to fantasize about being a YouTuber full-time instead of being a teacher. So maybe that will happen one day. 1,000 subscribers is a good first step. Alright, thank you everybody so much for watching. We're at about 25 minutes now, a little less than 25 minutes, so I'm gonna cut the video off here. Thanks again. Like the video, comment, subscribe. See you guys later. Bye.